Welcome everybody to this game review of Safe House here on Additional Pylons Games. Before we get started, just want to say thank you to Labs Games for the free key, and let's go ahead and get into the game review. So this game review will first describe the game, we'll talk about what the general gameplay is like, the challenges that are involved with the game, what makes it fun, what makes it engaging, and then we'll finish off with my rating, my summary, and my recommendation to you guys. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the review. First, the description. The premise of Safe House is that you manage, go figure, a safe house. You're somewhere in some sort of African nation, like Wakanda? Something like that? I'm not sure. I don't think it's a real nation. But basically, you oversee a safe house, and you oversee the operations for a bunch of spies, agents, assassin types, that sort of thing, kind of working in the shadows. So it's your job to make sure that the place of operations that they report to is safe and functions correctly. So that means this is a management game. You have to work efficiently, you have to build facilities, you have to make correct judgment calls and decisions on different events, that sort of things. You have to plan on what you're going to build towards so that you can run a tight ship. You got to have a really good, again, it's a management game, you got to have some really good efficiency going on. There's also a little bit of humor injected into the game, so it has some attempts at humor, which is nice from time to time. So that's just a brief description. It's really a pretty simple game. Probably the best way to put it is that it's a management game made up of a bunch of other mini games. Speaking of which, let's get into the gameplay. So, the gameplay. It's broken down into a few different phases each day. So, the first phase is your build phase. This is where you're able to construct more requests, you're able to construct more facilities, and get them built so that you improve the efficiency, you improve the capabilities of your safe house. So that's the first phase, the build phase. Second, you have the assign phase. That's where you're able to assign your agents to complete tasks, send them out on missions, and make sure that they get stuff done. The third phase, which is the phase that takes the longest, the phase that is probably the best known, is the management phase. So this is the overnight phase. So basically it's something like from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. or something like that. Anyways, this is where you receive incoming packages. This is where you get codes that you have to hack, where agents come in and you have to make decisions on whether they're giving you good info or bad info, if you should let them in or not, that sort of thing. Every decision that you make, you can get some extra money. If you correctly identify which packages you're supposed to receive, you can get some extra money if you let in the agents that you're supposed to let in, if you crack the code, that sort of thing. And you lose money, or more correctly, your opponent, your shadowy rival spy agency, gains some money whenever you do something wrong, whenever you mess up. So, during the build and assign phases, there's no time limit. You can do whatever you need to do, make your decision, that sort of thing. But during the management phase, it's based around being quick and efficient. The management phase, you've got a limited amount of time in order to complete all the tasks that are vying for your attention. Each interaction, each little game is basically a mini game within the larger overscope of the management phase. So the sum of these mini games build into the final management phase of itself. So again, you're cracking codes, you're verifying packages, you're doing this little like code word kind of mini game with agents that come in. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. I like the concept. With that, the challenges. So what makes it fun? What makes it interesting? What makes it engaging? The entire game is a challenge of decision making. It's broken up into two different categories. So you've got your fast-paced decision-making during the management phase, and you've got your not time-sensitive decisions that you have to make during the other phases. So during the management phase, again, this is where primarily most of the gameplay takes place. You've got a limited amount of time each night. Right answers, correctly answering these different scenarios gets you more money. Wrong answers give money to your rivals, to your enemies, to carry out operations against you. The more you mess up, the stronger they become. But at the same time, the better you are, the more efficient you are, the quicker you are on these mini games, the more money you can make as more orders come in, as more agents come in, that sort of thing. And again, you've got the non-time sensitive decisions. What rooms you should build, when you should build them, where you should build them for adjacency, that sort of thing. What to do with your operatives, some dialogue options, that sort of thing. There's also another challenge, which I don't think was intended, but there is a minor but still annoying challenge with the game interface. For starters, the camera doesn't pan out far enough, and it doesn't really stay put when you're in the management phase, so that means that you have to like shuffle back and forth to manage both ends, which I think is kind of intentional, but at the same time, it's kind of annoying as well. The game doesn't scroll as fast as I would want in order to be able to manage both halves of the safe house. The menus, there's a little bit of a difficulty with them responding. There's been at least one time where I clicked on something and it registered me clicking on something else, and I ended up losing money for it. So I didn't like that. But there's a little bit of challenge in that as well. I understand where they're going for with the menu and the UI and that sort of thing, making it kind of feel authentic to like the spy genre, with having like a case file for the night and that sort of thing. But it's still, it was challenging to navigate menus, which I don't think is a good thing. So with that, that is kind of an overview of the game. It's an indie game, it's a small game. So with that, my review. So for those of you that are new to the channel that have never seen or heard my reviews, here's how my rating scale kind of goes. So I rate a game based on if you were a friend, and I think you are my friends, but if you were a friend and you're coming to me asking me about this game, that's how I would kind of make this judgment. Would I recommend it to a friend of mine? So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being these are just life-altering, game-changing kind of games. These are, you know, your Ocarina of Time, these are Skyrim, these are World of Warcraft back in the day when it was at its height. You know, like these games that like shape and alter the landscape of gaming, right? A 3 is an average game, and a 1 is the kind of game where it's just like, this is abandonware, it's buggy, it's got, you know, all sorts of issues and problems with it, you should never buy it. A 2 is kind of in between that, and then a 4 is like, this is a solid, really good game, you should seriously consider purchasing it. So, with that as a rating, the question is, where does Safe House fall? And unfortunately, I have to give it a 2.25. And I know I said that I like the idea of, I like the concept of like having all these little mini games that you have to manage back and forth, but the real problem is just the execution. I give it a 2.25, and really that's, I'm kind of giving it the benefit of the doubt. I could not make it past 12 minutes in the game. I played for 12 minutes and I was done. It was not fun, it was frustrating. I'm giving the game the benefit of the doubt that maybe the game gets better as you progress, as you get more agents, as you get more mini games, that sort of thing. It just, like, I understand the whole idea of like fast-paced, frenzy, fun kind of games like Overcooked. Overcooked is an excellent example of a kind of game where they do frenzy but fun. This game does frenzy but frustrating, which is, it's kind of difficult to determine what dictates between the two, but that's kind of the main, that's the crux of it. There's a fine line between being frustrating and being fun, and I think that Safe House errs more on the side of frustrating. Those menu issues are a problem. Also, I don't know, the humor didn't really catch with me. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I could see that it was an attempt, but it kind of fell flat. But again, comedy is kind of a subjective thing, so maybe you'd enjoy it. But the menu issues really are a bit of a killer. If the mini games are based around me reading reports and being quick and efficient, the menus have to be crisp. They have to be really crisp, and they're just not. It's kind of like making a first-person shooter, but then all the guns are off. Like, you messed up on the one thing that's vitally important to the game running and operating well. It just, like, you could mess up anything else in a racing game, but if you mess up braking and steering and accelerating, then you've kind of lost the yard. So I don't even know what that phrase means. Lost the yard? Is that a phrase? Let me know in the comments down below. So again, the humor was a nice try, but mostly fell flat. The mini games, some of them were okay. Like I liked the one of like the code words back and forth with the agents, but the menu was too clunky. The other ones I didn't like as much. But again, in the end, the mini games aren't really the challenge of the game. It's the unresponsive menus. It's the buttons that didn't click well. It's the movement of the camera back and forth. So in the end, I have to give it a 2.25. I think it's a good try, and I really like the idea and the concept of these mini games that you have to, you know, manage on top of each other, along with like the downtime of the other phases in between. I really like that cycle. I really like that almost that circadian rhythm that you have going there. But the execution of it is just a little off. So I would say that maybe if they improve it in the future, I would take another look at it. But for now, I would say it's a game to probably avoid unless you're really interested in it. If there's a demo or something like that you can try the demo first before getting into it. So that's my general word of caution on Safe House. Unfortunately, I was really looking forward to it, and it didn't meet my expectations. So let me know if you have any different thoughts in the comments down below. If it's your first time here, hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and hopefully you got a little bit more information on this game and game reviews in general. So thanks again, and we'll see you for the next review here on AP Games.